graders, and welcome to another flipped lesson on fractions. Tonight's flipped lesson is going to be on renaming improper fractions. Well, what is an improper fraction? Improper fractions are fractions that have a larger number in the numerator. So the larger number is going to be on top in an improper fraction. Right now, write the definition of an improper fraction in your vocabulary section of your notebook. I want you to write this example of an improper fraction next to the definition. That's going to help you identify what I mean by a larger number in the numerator. 10 is greater than 3, so this is an improper fraction. Well, if there are improper fractions, then there are proper fractions. A proper fraction are the fractions that we're used to. Proper fractions have larger numbers in the denominator. So take a moment now and write the definition of a proper fraction in your vocabulary section as well. And next to your definition of a proper fraction, I want you to write this example. 1/9 is an example of a proper fraction, which is a fraction that we're used to. The proper fractions have a larger number in the denominator. Here is an example of a proper fraction used in a mixed number. So remember when we were talking about a mixed number? A mixed number takes a whole number and a fraction and puts them together. Well, looking at this picture, we see that one whole square is colored. So I put one whole. And then we have this square where 3 parts of it is shaded. So I have 3 in my numerator. And there are 4 sections altogether. So 3 out of 4 pieces are shaded with this square. So altogether, there is 1 3/4 shaded. That's what we're used to. Now let's look at things that we're going to do today. We're going to be renaming these mixed numbers, and we're going to turn them into improper fractions. We're going to make the fractions have a larger number in the numerator. So this is what we know. We know that when we look at this shape, the whole shape is colored. Again, with this shape, the whole thing is colored. Now when we're looking at this shape, we can see that 1 out of the 3 pieces are colored. That's what we know. That's what we've been doing for a while now. And if I were to take a look at all 3 of these shapes, I could give you a mixed number that represents all of them. So that would be 1 plus 1 would give me 2 whole. And then I have this 1/3, so I have to add that in. So 2 and 1/3. That is represented here in my pictures. Today, we're going to be learning that a whole is broken up into a fraction as well. So if I'm looking at this picture, I can see that 3 out of the 3 pieces are colored. So I can write that like this, 3 out of 3, which just means that 3 out of the 3 pieces are shaded. And again, I wrote that for the other whole, because this other shape also has 3 pieces colored out of a total of 3 pieces altogether. And then my last piece still shows 1 out of 3 colored, so I left that as my fraction. Now, we've been learning about how to add like fractions, and looking at 3/3, 3/3, and 1/3, they all have a 3 in the denominator. When all fractions have the same number in the denominator, they're called like fractions, and I can add those together. So my new denominator is going to still be 3. But when I add fractions, the numerator is the one that changes. So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say I have 3 plus 3 plus 1, because those are the 3 numbers in my numerator. So 3 plus 3 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. So my improper fraction is 7/3, because I have 7 pieces colored. Now let's complete some examples of mixed numbers and improper fractions. We're just going to be renaming these. If I have a mixed number like this, and I want to turn it into an improper fraction, I could use one strategy, which is to draw a bar diagram. And when I do that, I'm going to break it apart into the number of pieces in my denominator. So this example means that I have to break it up into 4 equal pieces. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. I drew 4 bars because I have 3 holes and then a part of a hole. So the 3 means that 3 whole bars are shaded. So this represents my 3 whole. My next bar only has 1 out of the 4 shaded, so I'm just going to color in one of those pieces. And since 4 is my denominator, I'm going to keep that when I make my improper fraction. So now what I do is I count all of the pieces that are shaded, but I still keep my denominator 4 because that's how many pieces are in one of my bars. So watch as I make an improper fraction from this mixed fraction. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pieces colored. So I'm going to put 13 on the top because this shows altogether 13 parts shaded. So 13 over 4 is the same as saying 3 and 1/4. That's what you do when you have a mixed number and you want to turn it into an improper fraction. Now, let's look at an example when you have an improper fraction and you want to turn it into a mixed number. So, in multiplication and in division, we have different symbols that represent the operation. We've learned that this symbol means multiplication. We learned that this symbol is multiplication. We've learned that this symbol stands for division, and we know that this symbol stands for division. This fraction line also means division. So when you're looking at this, and an improper fraction has more on the top, you can actually say divided by when you see the fraction line. So 23 divided by 4. So I want to write that in a way that I can really do my division. And since we've learned how to do long division, I'm going to write it like this. 23 divided by 4. So my denominator is also my divisor. So then I figure out my long division problem. And for this case, it's how many times does 4 go into 23? Well, 4 goes into 2 0 times, right? A large number cannot go inside of a small number. Then I have to ask myself, well, how many times does 4 go into 23? Well, I know that 4 goes into 23 5 times without going over. And remember, we always have to think, how many times can my divisor go into my dividend without going over? And in this case, it goes in 5 times. Then my next step in my long division is multiplication. So 5 times 4 is 20. And then I subtract. I don't have any more to bring down, so that means 3 is my remainder. And I bring that up, and I put remainder 3. Well, now that we know that this was my denominator, when I'm writing my remainder, I can write it using a fraction. So this means that 3 out of 4 pieces are there. So now my mixed number that I got by looking at this improper fraction is 5 and 3/4. So again, when I saw my improper fraction, I knew that I could say divided by when I saw my fraction line. So I said 23 divided by 4. My denominator is my divisor, and that's how many times it goes into the larger number, or the number on top. In this case, 4 went into 23 5 times, with a remainder 3. Since I had a remainder, I drew my fraction line, and I added my denominator underneath the division line, underneath the fraction line. So I got 5 and 3/4. Now I want you to try these on your own in your practice section. So for number 1, you're going to tell me an improper fraction based on this mixed number. And for example number 2, you're going to change this improper fraction into a mixed number. Remember, you can go back and review the video at any point if you are forgetting something. And please come with questions or suggestions if this is challenging for you. Have a great night, boys and girls.